All right, Mayor, you're good to go.
All right, I'll call the meeting to order. I have 2 minutes after 7. Let's see. Can you put up the adequate notice, Kevin?
Sure can.
Here we go. Adequate notice of this meeting has been given to the Express Times New Jersey Zone Edition and the Express Times in compliance with the Open Public Meetings Act. A notice of this meeting and all of the regular meetings of the Powhatan Township Council are posted on the township's website. If we could now have a moment of silence, and a flag salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, has everyone had a chance to review the March 16th minutes?
Yes.
Yes.
Any amendments or corrections?
I have one. It's Ingrid.
Go ahead, Ingrid.
It's a small one, but it's funny. Under the attorney's report, I questioned about what would happen with Lock Street with this property we were discussing. And Benbrook talks about it, the developer, and then there's a sentence that Benbrook concurred that the traffic would go out to the mail instead of the mall.
All right, so you wanna amend it to mall, not mail.
Correct.
Thank you, Ingrid. That is kind of funny.
And the one other thing was there was a dangling E by itself. I will try to locate that for you, but I did see that today. Unless it's my computer that keeps throwing those random letters out there, but I did see there was a spot with an E in it just sitting out there.
All right, Kevin.
But from a content perspective, I'm happy with them, and I'll move them forward for approval.
Second
All
Stella.
right, thank you.
Okay, Dubinsky's absent, so Gray,
Yes. With the changes, right?
right?
Yes, as
Melvin.
amended.
Councilman Melvin,
Yes.
Stillo,
Yes.
and Slack.
Yes.
Okay.
All right, has everybody had a chance to review the bill list?
Yes.
Yes.
Any questions or comments?
I did not have any questions this time.
I'm good.
Ingrid?
No questions.
I'll move
All
it
right.
forward. Payment of the bills as listed.
Yep.
Melvin?
Motion to pay bills presented in proper form, signed by the director of each department and approved by the majority of the members and listed on the bill list.
So moved.
Second Stella.
Okay, Gray,
Yes.
Melvin,
Yes.
Stillo,
Yes.
Slack.
Yes. All right, public comments. At this time, anyone in the public that would like to make comment on agenda items and agenda items only, please be recognized, and Councilman Melvin will let you. Kevin,
So
can
if
you
you'd like
see if
to
we have
make a-
anybody?
Sure. If anyone would like to make a comment, please use the raise hand feature or type your name in the chat. If you're on a phone line and not on the internet, you can ask to be verbally recognized. And this is public comment on agenda items only, as the mayor pointed out. I'm just going through the list now, Mayor, and I do not see anybody looking to be recognized. So I'm going to say we don't have any public comment on the agenda items at this point.
All right. Seeing no public comments on the agenda, we're gonna move on. Kevin, can you see, do we have our attorney online tonight?
I'm
Yeah,
here.
he
I'm here,
joined.
Dave.
Yep.
I'm here. You
Okay,
guys hear me okay?
yep, we can hear you. How you feeling, Kevin?
I had my doctor give me a steroid and an inhaler. I have this goddamn lingering cough that's driving me crazy. So we'll see. I don't know. Maybe a touch of bronchitis or walking pneumonia or something. I don't know. I just gotta get over it.
Yeah. Well, take
Pain in the
care
neck.
of yourself in that aspect, and I'm sorry to
Yeah.
hear that, but
Yeah, so if I'm coughing, guys, I apologize. I just took a couple Tylenol codeine to tamp it down. But as far as my update, Mayor, just today, as a matter of fact, we were supposed to start next month. We had 3 days booked out to start the trial on the mall tax appeal, which I very much want to get done. Then our expert reached out to myself and the attorney for Lopakon and indicated that he would ask for us to ask the judge for an adjournment because he's going out of state to be with his daughter. I guess she's expecting her first grandchild or what have you. So we went round and round, and because of course these trials are all Zoom, I was kind of trying to convince him to just, you could have this laptop anywhere and be participating in the trial. And the first part of the trial is the plaintiff's case, not ours. So he really only had to listen to their expert. But nevertheless, he wasn't comfortable with that. And I certainly wasn't going to push it further. So the judge, we had a conference call today. The judge has rescheduled. I just said, look, Judge, we want to get it tried this year. We have too many years outstanding. So the judge has given us the entire week of August 16 and come hell or high water, as far as I'm concerned, I want to get that trial done. So we should know what we're doing in terms of that mall, after that date. Oh, I mean, Novin actually may reserve for a little bit on his decision, but certainly by fall, I'm expecting to have that behind us. And, I feel that we've experted them and they have the burden of proof. So it's not the easiest case in the world, but I feel we have some ammunition and I think we'll do a good job.
Kevin, did you give those dates to our experts to ensure that because that's prime vacation season, right? So just to make sure he's around.
Well, the way we left it was the judge has scheduled it subject to reaching out to our expert and confirming the date. Everybody else is confirmed. The plaintiff's expert, all attorneys, and the judge. So yes, that's the only caveat. But I kind of said to Lou, I said, I said just what you said. I said, this is going to get moved into prime vacation. So, the judge isn't going to want to hear much about that. This is when I talked to him before and said, okay, we'll make the adjournment request. So I anticipate us being able to somehow work it in.
Okay.
I'm kind of insisting on it, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I mean, I honestly, just as just my own 2 cents is I would have loved it sooner rather than later. That way we just know what that outcome is.
I would really,
I hate kicking this can.
Well, I really definitely don't want to kick it down like another year. And I always feel the same exact way, Kevin, which is why I was trying to talk our expert. I said to Lou, I said, listen, not for nothing, but especially with COVID and you're a grandparent, you're not getting anywhere close to the delivery room or anything. I said, Lou, you could literally just have your laptop sitting in the waiting area and look, if we have to take breaks or something, that's understandable, but at least we could get going. But in any event, at least the judge didn't kick it too far. And this is like a peremptory date. So I have pretty high expectations that it will happen then. And I'll keep you guys in the loop as we get closer. Kevin Melvin, I did get your emails, Kevin. I will put those together. Hopefully maybe as soon as tomorrow. Today, I wasn't able to do a whole heck of a lot because I was getting all new computers at my office. So I kept getting kicked out of one office after another while computers are going offline. But I'll circulate an updated draft for the benefit of the mayor and council that it seems like finally maybe Greenwich is actually prepared to possibly do something on a contract. And I guess we've finally gotten their attention after about 3 years. So Kevin, I will get something to you this week on that, maybe as soon as tomorrow. I just want to make sure it
Okay.
looks kind of like the way you think it should look before we circulate a draft. And of course, it'll come back in its entirety, to the whole council. I did send Wayne an email. I saw Wayne was on. So the school asked for a pretty minor modification to Wayne's plot plan for that minor subdivision. So I just, sent Wayne an email follow-up. Obviously, with the winter, you couldn't really do the field work, but now that we're finally getting into some decent weather, hopefully we can adjust those lines slightly. They wanted like a tree line on one side or the other, I forget, but it was pretty minor. And then we'll get that wrapped up. And Kevin and John, if you guys want to at some point discuss with any swap with Green Acres, that'll be coming up here pretty shortly.
Yeah.
And Kevin, we staked that line. I just hadn't heard back from anyone involved that what they saw was what they wanted. So if that's confirmed, we'll wrap this up.
Yeah,
Okay,
but yeah, Wayne, I spoke with Diane Mandry and they're gonna have a meeting, but they don't seem to have a problem with the stake, what were you staked at the last time? They're really good
Okay.
with that. The only thing they had a question about was if there's any type of, say, building or pavilion, are there zoning setbacks from their property? I always said there always is. So that was their only concern, if there is any setbacks, if there is any type of building.
Candidly, John, we're technically exempt from our own zoning ordinances as a committee.
Okay.
But obviously, out of respect, I would think, listen, we work cooperatively with the school.
Right,
So before we set anything on there, I'm sure we would say, hey, guys, is this spot okay? We can easily work with them. That's not an
Yep.
issue.
That's fine, good. So, but they're good with the
So Wayne-
stakes, Wayne.
I'll shoot an email to the attorney asking him just to confirm that his client's okay with the revised line. Then Wayne just has to modify the descriptions and we'll be ready to get those deeds going. And so sounds like within the next month or so that'll all be wrapped up. And before we record them, that's when we could have the discussion with Green Acres if you guys want to talk swap, okay?
Yep, sounds good.
Yep.
Okay. Habitat's on the agenda. They've approved the memorandum of understanding that I drafted. So that's on the agenda for a motion to authorize the mayor and Wanda to execute. Once that's done, I just saw today they're getting a quick search. But I'm certainly comfortable we have good and marketable title. And then when they're ready to take the deed, we can give them the deed and we can, I don't know whether they're going to want a lump sum check or not, but the 35,000 I think we were going to give them is in that MOU. And they were satisfied with its terms. And the MOU does confirm that it has to be an affordable housing unit. I didn't specify in case Daryl's on. Again, I wanted to maximize the flexibility of the of Habitat. I didn't specify the the veterans home, but they're more than free to work in that direction. Because any of that type of housing gives us credits. So the MOU is on the agenda. I don't know if Steve's here tonight. I don't think I see him. Maybe he is, but in any event, if you guys have been seeing, I have had some back and forth emails on the question of Nishipo State Historical Standards Office on the Regalsville store, and they apparently are in communication both on the interior and the exterior. And it looks like maybe that's something, that stuff's going to keep going again here. So.
Excuse me, it's Ingrid. I think I asked Kurt to come to the meeting tonight at 7:20. Kevin, is he on yet?
I don't see him.
I thought I saw an email, Ingrid, that maybe he couldn't make the meeting, but I'm not positive on that.
No, I was texting him. Well, actually, I had a conversation with him, and then he texted me and asked me what time you should log on tonight.
Okay, well,
and I
perfect.
said, at 7:20. So if you see him pop on, Kevin,
Kurt gave me a specific name of the woman down at State Historical. I can never say that acronym correctly, but in any event, they are definitely communicating and they are approving things as he goes along. Let's see. Our stormwater ordinance was approved by the county, and trying to think. I think that's about all I had to report on tonight. Unless I'm missing something or somebody wants to address something with me.
Yeah, Kevin, it's Ingrid. The minutes from March showed that you were going to send us a memo to review a draft model ordinance for the cannabis legislation that was promulgated.
I did do that.
Did we
Actually,
get that?
yes, I believe, and again, I can, if Wanda's on, we can confirm. I actually, just as I was going to prepare my own memo, some very good memos came out from our GIF. And I actually Wanda sent those to me, I think. So she should have circulated all those to you.
I don't know if I've seen them either.
Yeah.
I
I
haven't seen
did
them.
not, Kevin. I just sent them to you because I thought they would be helpful to you, but I didn't get anything
Gotcha.
to distribute. to
Okay,
council.
then you know what? I'll do Wanda. I will send all that stuff that Wanda actually sent me to each of the 5 of you. They're actually very good, and there is, I'll send you a supplemental little memo and a model ordinance tomorrow, Ingrid. I apologize. I was thinking that that was like a group email that Wanda had sent, which kind of covered the bases pretty well, actually. But
I just sent it to you, the mayor,
You
and the
got it.
chief.
okay, I'll update everybody with that tomorrow.
Okay, thanks, Kevin.
But
And one other
just so you
thing.
guys, just so you guys are aware, Ingrid, and for the whole council, we have until August 21st, I believe, to do any type of opt-out ordinance. So, I mean, you certainly have plenty of time to address it, but I will get you those emails. You know, it's interesting, just so you guys know, just parenthetically, I mean, I represent 6 municipalities, and so far, I think the state might end up being a bit surprised because I think they thought maybe, you know, especially out here in rural areas that were, you know, I don't know, somehow backwards or something, and that there'd be all these opt-outs. So far, I don't think any of my municipalities are leaning toward opting out of any categories. I think most people kind of, the sense I get is that most of the public and most elected officials kind of feel like the train has kind of left the station on the issue, and are, you know, not really that interested in prohibitions. I will also tell you guys this. There's 5 classes, and again, you'll see this memo tomorrow. There's 5 different classes of cannabis, from manufacturing to distribution, all the way down to retail. You can opt out of any one or up to all 5. If you get to August and you're still a little concerned about any category or all of the categories, you can opt out, but you can always opt back into any category at any time. The converse is not true. If we elect not to opt out of any or all of the categories, it's not that automatically means everything's a permitted use. We can still develop zoning ordinances and things of that nature. But if we don't opt out of any categories, that cannot be changed at all for 5 years. And so when applications come in, you're going to have to basically consider those, which is going to make it, you know, which is, you know, and they'll be grandfathered. So, it's an interesting situation where the state set it up, but I will definitely circulate all that stuff tomorrow and I will put all this stuff that I'm just telling you tonight in writing, and I'll be updating you guys. I'm probably going to go back to Sri and I are developing written reports just so we can keep track of all the work we're doing for all municipalities. So I'll start sending those out to you guys the Thursday or Friday before, and that'll be one of the agenda items just so we can keep track of it. Okay.
Yeah. Well, I'll wait to see that documentation, but I you know, in general, I'm not in favor of retail. So
Yeah.
that's my
That's
personal
fine.
opinion. I'll see
Yeah.
what everything else, you know, we're a farming community. There may be other
Right.
uses and stuff, but retail, for me, I don't see the benefit as of right now. I see there's more detriment, and I'll look at the research and stuff, but that's
Right.
where my thinking is right now.
And you know, Kevin, the other thing I'll tack onto that is the legislation created a commission that's kind of setting up rules and regulations, and they've only had like 2 hearings, and they haven't promulgated anything yet, I don't believe. So listen, that's the type of situation where you say, oh, hey, listen, we're a farming community. I could see growing it either inside or outside or distribution, you know, type of a center. But we're uncomfortable with retail. That's fine. You can opt out of, again, you could opt out of just the retail and then kind of see how it develops. and see if you want it or not. You know, that you're gonna have complete flexibility on that, so. And I will circulate the League of Municipalities did model ordinance. I'll circulate it to you. The model I send you is a complete opt-out, but it's easily tweakable to any, to less than a complete opt-out. Okay?
Okay. Okay, Kevin Melvin, is Kurt on yet? It's 7:22.
I don't see him.
Yes,
Oh,
I'm here.
Maybe.
Kurt, before Kurt goes, can I just give you guys one more great piece of news? I got our final foreclosure judgment. So we are now the proud owners of multiple pieces of property. I will be getting that over to you guys. Now, you want to wait 45 days for the time for any post-judgment appeal to expire. But I will be updating that to you guys too. But we did perfect our foreclosure. That'll help you guys next year. And some of those properties look like they may have some value. So I'll be getting that stuff to you guys, and for either some auction purposes, or if they're undersized lots, we can offer them to adjacent owners. But that was very good news. Our first foreclosure judgment in probably a decade. So we've cleaned up a lot. I think we got about 13 properties, maybe.
Jeez. Kevin, when you send that out, will you be giving street addresses, or just going to be block and lot?
You know what? I'll give you I don't think the street addresses are typically in the judgment, but I will supplement that so you guys know what they are.
Thank you so much. That
You're
would be
welcome.
great.
Yep.
Okay. So now Kurt's on.
Yeah, I'm here.
Kevin, is that everything you had for us, council?
I think so, unless anybody else has any further questions.
Well, I have another one, but since Kevin brought up about Scheimer's store,
I
thought,
can defer to Kurt and come back if that's what you guys want. That's fine.
Okay.
All right. It's all yours, Kurt. What do you have for us as an update on the store down there?
Well, I got an email from Kevin the other, about a month ago about the historic easements that are in the deed. I just wanted to let the council know that I've been working with Michael Margulies on all the plans for the store. Most of what's happened right now has just been structural stabilization to make sure that everything's in good shape. And what's happening now is that we've been in touch with the State Historic Preservation Commission, which is, Megan Barada, Lindsay Thyberg, and primarily Jennifer Wenis. She's a historic preservation specialist, and she's going to be handling our submissions. We sent her the deed also. So she has the deed that came from the township. So she's aware of the restrictions that are in the deed. And so, the next part of this is that we're putting together plans as far as the overhang on the roof, fixing the rest of the roof with the overhang, any other exterior, things that need to be done. All that's going to be going to the State Historic Preservation Commission for their approvals. They'll be going to be coming out to visit, to look at the place before the work gets started, and then we can't really move forward until we get their approvals.
Hey, Kurt, this is Kevin. And listen, thanks for communicating with me. I had given an update that you had done that before you got on. But one other thing, if I recall from your email, which I think would be of some interest to the mayor and council, I think you said something about the other important part, and really one of the major incentives for you to make sure you cooperate with them is that'll make you eligible for some historic preservation or renovation tax credits and things, correct, as I understood it?
Correct. And it's the same woman, Jennifer, who she's going to kind of like our case manager for the project. So she's the same person that will do the approvals for both for the deed restrictions and whatever, and also for the tax credits.
Great. Oh, that'd be good. Well, listen, I wish you the best of luck. That'd be fun to see that project get underway as I go biking by there once I stop coughing this summer.
Right.
The
Okay.
other thing, guys, I would generally say, and Kurt, while you're on, I think it's fair to say too, in case the representatives from the state have any issue with that. Our restrictions really piggybacked on those restrictions, and I think it's fair to say ours were more of timing-based restrictions. So, I think they're probably reading the document that way as well. But to the extent there's any question about that, we're certainly deferring to their expertise in terms of the rehab and the historic elements of it.
Right. And, I just want to make sure it's understood that part of what's the way that this is going forward is this is a historic building that's put into service. So there's going to be certain things that they have to make a judgment call on, like obviously there wasn't a handicap entrance when the building was built.
Right.
But we'll have to do something to have a handicap entrance. We're not going to put knob and tube back. We're going to be doing stuff that's modern, as far as structure and mechanicals that are part of putting the building back into service.
Right.
Really what they're looking at is the fabric of the building, the historic nature of certain elements, like the staircase stays intact. That the trim is looking like the trim would have looked, and the windows are being restored properly, that the mortar that's going in is a lime-based mortar that's approved by them, those kind of things. So, that's all part of the process with them.
So Kurt, it's Kevin Melvin. My only comment is, as you go through this process, get this funding sorted, is if you prioritize those elements that are in the deed restriction with regard to the exterior, because I think it's limited to just some of those exterior features. And then we don't need to keep asking you to come back to do this because you will have fulfilled the deed requirements. So, until those are satisfied, we're going to keep asking for updates and stuff like that. So my piece of advice is, if you have any say in the matter, to prioritize those elements that are part of the deed restriction, get them situated, and then we're off your back and not bothering you because you have then satisfied the deed.
I'm with you. I like that. I like your proposal, and that's definitely what I've been talking to Michael Margulies about, to make sure that we move forward on those things first.
Yeah, and I think the overhangs would be a huge step towards that anyhow, and I think you mentioned those, so I think that would be super, super helpful. Well, good luck with it, Kurt. I appreciate you getting back to me, and I think it seems like we're, after a lot of years, which I know there were a lot of reasons for that, not necessarily blaming you, but it's nice to see. Hopefully, it's going to get going.
Yeah. I'm excited.
Yeah. Good luck.
Okay.
All right, very good, Kurt. Thank you for the update.
No problem. Anything else?
Nope, we're good, Kurt.
Okay. Thanks, Kurt.
All right.
Calling in.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
Yep.
You too.
Ingrid, did you have something else for me? Did you say before?
Yeah, I did. I had gotten a phone call from someone who follows state legislation, and there was a question about an unfunded mandate for selective logging. And I was wondering if you had seen that. It's requiring townships to come up with selective logging on property in the township. And it's unfunded, and I just didn't know if you had done this in any of your other municipalities.
This is for a logging plan on like wooded property that we own. I haven't seen anything about that. I'll make a note, Ingrid, and look into it. I can tell you that, an unfunded mandate is basically where, like that is an example. The state issues a regulation saying you must do this or have this plan. And we say, well, wait a minute, that's an unfunded mandate because we have to go get a logger and spend several $100s or whatever to to get this done. And you're not funding this, so it's illegal under the unfunded mandate clause, which I believe is constitutional. I'm not sure, maybe statutory. But that whole thing, to be honest with you, is I've found in the past to be completely without any teeth whatsoever. The unfunded mandate commission, that's where you have to go to argue this. Now, are you saying there may have been a ruling to that effect out of the commission, or?
Well,
Isn't
yeah, this resident is involved in environmental issues and brought it to my attention, and you were not well last time, so I didn't get a chance to bring it up then. But I didn't know if anything had crossed your desk. But you know what, Kevin, I will forward you the information that I have on that
That'd be great.
tomorrow, okay?
Yeah, I will definitely run that down for you, but I mean, I hopefully maybe somebody already challenged it to the unfunded mandate council, but I've been down there and challenged things previously that seem to be clear winners. And honestly, that commission tends to be stacked towards the governor's office and the administrative agencies, which are really part of the executive branch. And they don't seem to go the way of municipalities very often, but if you forward it to me, I will run it down.
Thank you, Kevin.
You're welcome.
If everybody's done with the adjournment, we're going to move on to our engineer report. Do we have Wayne Ingram online with us this evening?
I'm here.
Yes.
All Wayne.
There's really not too much since we just had a meeting a couple weeks ago. Just to let everybody know, I'll be heading back out to the quarry tomorrow to do a supplemental inspection regarding mostly about the placement of any wrap on the property to make sure it's in areas that in our opinion that they're permitted to be placing it and not elsewhere. Again, just to see the site again now that there's no snow cover or anything like that. Over to the guide rail projects, we're about 2 weeks out from having them return to install the final pieces. Certainly we're made aware of the concerns over the appearance related to switching of posts, and I think we're coming to an agreement with them on how that's going to take place and to swapping them out so that there's no material loss, and basically they can pop them out and replace them for the most part. So we're going to be working that out when they return in a couple weeks to get that resolved. In regard to March Boulevard, we just today forwarded over a couple of the draft plans to show the difference between what we think we could accomplish within the grant amount versus a slightly larger project, which we had discussed with Jeff at the DPW, just to, would be a little bit more, road extension to a troublesome intersection. And that's really just for your consideration if you want to decide to allocate any municipal dollars, to the project, or do we just try and stay closer to the grant amount? Those are really the only things we have going on at the moment. Happy to answer any questions, and I'll probably have another report for you all regarding the quarry after my inspection tomorrow.
All right.
Now,
Does
Wayne, when
anybody?
you go there, I'm sorry, it's Ingrid.
Go ahead, Ingrid.
Can I talk?
Absolutely.
Okay, so Wayne, when you go there tomorrow regarding the inspection that you're going to be doing, there have been photos circulated of extensive paving on the site. And is that something that you're going to be looking for when they laid down impervious surfaces there?
Yeah, I mean, we're looking to, that was the spreading of millings, and there's areas that, in my opinion, they'd be allowed to do that. And there's areas that they would not, and those areas that they would not, again, I have to hear from them about their reasoning. But, areas that were meant to be reclaimed, again, unless they have some intermediary reason that they'd have to explain to me, I don't think we would allow them to place in areas that were meant for reclamation. But if it's other, areas that they're using or that were used for storage and things like that, the quarry has provided another alert today, with regard to how they use the material on site as well as for processes. And, I looked through it, and if that is indeed what is happening there, then I would say that they're still, again, within the limits of, what they'd be permitted to do. But we're going to, ensure that it's in the places that it's supposed to be and not where it's not.
Yeah, and I
Okay,
would
so-
actually challenge. I'm sorry, Ingrid, go ahead.
You go ahead, Kevin.
I was just going to say I would challenge. I don't see where there's intermediary reasons unless they're emergent in nature. So, and I don't know how widely known it is. I see a lot of information or hear a lot of information being circulated. So the township fined the quarry the maximum amount allowable by ordinance, $2,000 for what they had done in the reclamation area. And so if that is being paved or something else, and after we've already fined them, then I do think we need to continue to take further action and more just, more steps there. So obviously we need to let the engineer have his site visit and have the report. But, if especially if they are paving over an area that we've already fined them for, to me, that would be fairly significant.
Yeah, Kevin, just to follow up, and we've had some discussions, you and I, about millings, and of course I touched on that in the detailed memo I gave you guys for the last meeting, because I know it's a hot button issue. I was actually reached out to by a citizens group that wanted to potentially hire me to object to the application. I said, guys, I've been the township attorney for 20 years. I can't do that. But I would not be surprised if there's a group of citizens that get together and pool their assets and retain counsel and retain a planner. And listen, that's what this process is all about, to have public hearings, to get unbiased testimony on it as much as you can, so that the board can make an informed decision. I would just say, in terms of millings, and Wayne, I don't know, I mean, again, I'm happy to talk to you about it as well, but my kind of feeling would be that, they have internal haul roads throughout the quarry, and they're gravel right now. And I would think putting millings down, as somebody used the word impervious, would convert those from pervious to impervious. I'm not sure really putting any millings down is within the limits of their license currently without amended site plan approval. That would be kind of one interesting thing to take a look at. But I think the whole concept of injecting millings down there is, on any level, could certainly become a problem. And again, as I also pointed out in my memo, this is not our jurisdiction, but of course, two of you guys are on that board. To me, it's a threshold issue that the board's going to have to look at very carefully, and probably require some briefing from the quarry's attorney and ultimately a legal opinion from Tony Sposaro, the board attorney. And if there is an objector attorney, I'm sure he or she will be invited to brief the issue. But the issue comes down to, our ordinance is rather generalized in certain respects, but I mean, and I could certainly argue, as an attorney who's done land use for 30 years, including some big projects, or many big projects, I could argue both sides of this issue. But there's a question in my mind whether our ordinance would permit millings without the need for use variance relief. And that would be a significant finding that I think our board's going to ultimately have to make, because use variance is a complete different animal from just an amended site plan approval. There is some general language about manufacturing and processing, but again, I think somebody could make the reasonable implication that's talking about product being mined out of the quarry. I mean, certainly, maybe you could stretch it to millings, maybe not, but then where does it stop? Is the line, can you bring in steel and melt down, or iron ore and melt down iron ore? I mean, it's like, at some point, the old ordinance standard is, if it's not expressly permitted, it's not permitted. And certainly our ordinance doesn't use the word millings at all. So again, I share, Ingrid's concern, I share Kevin's concern, I share the residents' concern, and up to a certain to a certain extent, no matter what the quarry does, it's going to be a little bit of a change for residents because candidly, the quarry was quasi out of business for some years, and these new owners have the assets and wherewithal and financial ability to ramp it up a little bit. But that doesn't mean that necessarily we as a township. And I can tell you, by the way, I don't know if you guys have heard these rumors, which I made every effort to say absolutely not to, but apparently there's a considerable concern among residents and neighbors that this is all a lead up to trying to get some type of asphalt plant in there or something along those lines. And listen, that under no circumstances I don't think is something we as a township are probably interested in. That would definitely be a use variance. But I would certainly make sure Wayne and we as a council make sure we limit them to what they're doing out there until they come in for the appropriate approvals for sure. And millings, I think, are problematic on any level right now until they have some type of approval.
So Kevin, you raise a very interesting point, and I do think there's a lot of different information that's circulating amongst a number of different individuals.
Yeah.
And one of which is this concern about an asphalt plant. Now,
Right.
this organization already has one, and to me, it wouldn't make sense commercially to put a second one in. But I think, could we put some of this to bed? And I had this conversation with the engineer a little bit. If we were to put an ordinance together specifically prohibiting asphalt plants, cement plants, I guess recycling plants. Wayne, jump in. I know you had rattled off a few of things that could be up for consideration. These are not part of the application, so this is not a spot zoning or a spot ordinance item, but this is just the township taking a stance that says these are things that we are prohibiting within our township, for the foreseeable future, right?
Yeah, I mean,
Correct.
listen,
Yeah.
you have what's called, and Wayne would know this too, and you guys as board members may have heard the term, you do have what's called the time of decision rule. And so what that means is, and to a certain extent, it's effectively a race to application filing. So they have an application filed. So they are entitled to rely upon the ordinance as written with respect to what they're asking for now, but they're not asking for a lot.
Right.
So yes, I agree with Kevin. If you want to strengthen the ordinance, I think what you would do, Kevin, there are ordinances drafted where you say, it's manufacturing or processing, excluding certain things, but then you get to, I think, again, I would fall back on just further refining what exactly we are permitting. And then somewhere in our ordinance, if it doesn't say so already, we simply have to add the language that anything not expressly permitted is not permitted, and that eliminates all those issues. And again, I've read the ordinance. I've looked at it a few times. It's a bit of a it's an interesting ordinance. It has some things in it that you'd be surprised that are in a quarry ordinance, if you will, especially as accessory uses. But I think it's questionable whether millings are permitted without doing anything to the ordinance right now. So that's something we'll have to determine.
And we're not talking about the millings, right? So this, and I'd be interested to hear the rest of council's opinion on this, or the potential palatability of this. But this would just basically outline to say, in no way, shape, or form are these activities permitted. They're prohibited within the township, right? And we're talking extremes. The people are worried about an asphalt plant. Let's put in the ordinance, no asphalt plants are permitted. They are prohibited within the township. No cement manufacturing plants are permitted, right? So this would, I think, ease some of the concerns. And I think this is also us not kicking things down the road that says, okay, we could try to do it with permits and other things like that. I think it may alleviate a lot of concerns that folks would have, but I'd be interested what others may think.
Yeah, Kevin, I agree with that. I think we have to really be specific on what we don't want with that. And like I said, I went down to, kind of see, on Snyder's Farm to see what was going on the other day. And there was a crusher being delivered as I was down there. So an asphalt crusher. So, I mean, they're moving heavy equipment down there as we speak, before they're even going through to the board on the 26th. So it's almost like, I know we talked before about, hey, good neighbors, this plant is not being a good neighbor by doing this stuff in the middle of the night, trying to get all this equipment down there when they're, with an application, a week away. So they're not playing by the rules. And
And
you know what? And
John, just for your reference, the application is not being heard on the 26th because they're going to amend it to include a solar area where they removed the brush from the reclamation area. So
Okay.
that's now actually going to be pushed at least a month out. Likely may fall into June frame. The one thing we have to be careful on, folks, is they own property. This is like somebody, if they have equipment that they use and they want to park it in the quarry, that's like telling me on my farm I can't park my tractor here, right? So even though, or some piece of equipment that I may have, can I put it on my own property? So I think we have to be careful of what is being used, in use. And there may be, I personally don't know enough about the equipment that there may be multiple uses. That may be an area that Wayne can speak to, outside of, and I think what's happening is a lot of people are automatically going to the worst case scenario, that this is what this is being used for, and therefore an asphalt plant is going to be up in the next 6 weeks, right? And that's why I personally would like to take action to create an ordinance to say, you know what, these worst case scenario things that you're thinking about, that's not going to be possible. And we're allowed to do that, as Kevin said, because the application that was put forward didn't include this stuff. So it's not like we're doing a spot zoning or we're reacting to an application. We're actually getting ahead of the curve here and saying, there's nothing pending in front of any of our boards, but this is what we want to take. This is the action that we'd like to see going forward.
Kevin, I'll give you one other, and I think it's a great idea. I'll look for some samples. And again, as you guys know, who've been on the board for any length, or you probably all know, I mean, you can initiate a zoning amendment either at our council or at the land use board. It has to go up and down, but I have no problem starting working on that. And of course, I always generally copy Tony Spizzero and Wayne Wilver, the board chairman, whenever we're circulating. But I think it is a very important issue to the township, and I will definitely get something circulated, get you guys some samples, and see where you want to go. There was one other point I was going to make on that, Kevin, but I lost my train of thought.
Kevin,
Anyway,
Kevin Weber, real quick, was there a storm study done on this at that for the river line at any time? Do you know of?
In terms of stormwater management or concerns about RAP?
Concerns about RAP.
They did provide a letter from their, I think it was their LSRP, who deals with contamination, as to, the concerns and basically giving a history of RAP and what it's determined to contain and things of that nature. So yes, there is a document to that effect submitted with the application.
Oh, yeah, and to follow up Wayne's comment and Kevin's comment, I'll tell you a recent example. I represent Glen Gardner Borough. They also have a quarry. So they ran into a problem very recently where there was going to be a major rock blasting undertaking as you come over the hill on 78 Jugtown Mountain. If you see those cliffs on the side, they want to move those back from the highway a little bit. There's going to be extensive blasting and a lot of rock, and that quarry, and again, it could be this quarry, could be a target for that rock being brought in and crushed. Well, again, that's a whole different noise element and truck traffic and everything else. And again, their ordinance needs an update. We're taking the same position for now that I'm taking here, that, hey, that's not permitted, so that's a use variance. But like Kevin said, it certainly doesn't hurt to specify, hey, quarrying means taking natural materials out of the ground at the site, not bringing in A, B, C, D, Z, not building asphalt plants, not building cement plants. So I think we can definitely strengthen up the ordinance, and not that we're trying, like Kevin said, to be pejorative to the current application, but just to specify for everybody's benefit going forward, this is what this quarry can be used for. It's named a quarry for a reason. It's not a manufacturing zone, it's a quarry zone. And I think we should clarify that, and that I will do whatever I can to expedite that for you guys.
Yeah, I'd love to have something for first reading at the next meeting if we could.
I will circulate.
That'd be great. Yep, that'd be
Guys,
great.
You guys have, definitely, this is an important issue, no question.
Ingrid, would you be, just as a straw poll, I don't want to put you on the spot, but how do you think that sounds?
I think it sounds brilliant, and anything we can do tonight to expedite this would be terrific. It's a brilliant idea, Kevin. I just don't want them to all of a sudden come back if they're listening in on this meeting to say, oh, we better put in asphalt plant and then jeopardize our ordinance or whatever.
Well, again, in my view, that it's not permitted in our ordinance at this point, but we're going to clarify it because, again, I think Kevin's right. It's better for all parties concerned, particularly our residents, and whom we care most about. And that, again, the quarry is a resident as well, but we should clarify this stuff. You guys will have a draft by next week, and we'll have plenty of time to get that introduced.
Okay. Thank you. Great.
Wayne Ingram again. I just want to say I agree with Kevin. I think the important thing is you want to make sure, the quarry ordinance has some sections which are a little broad, and they say accessory activities related to a quarry. The key there is we want to remove the ambiguity and make it so that it's very clear what types of things would be accessory versus what are other principal uses, so that no one's going to try and twist the words for those activities. And that's what I think is the important thing.
Yep. Incidentally, guys, just so you know, in terms of the amendment and the solar facility, our ordinance talks about small solar facilities, which really doesn't cover what they intend to do there. But that's actually statutorily authorized now on any industrial or quarry zone property in excess of 20 acres. Not that they won't have to site plan that, but we can deal with it in our amendment. But just so you know, that part, what they're coming in for, that would be permitted regardless of what we do with our zoning ordinance by statute.
Kevin, would that have been permitted if that reclaimed land was still intact?
Yes. They have. I think all areas of the quarry are potentially. I think because again, it's really was part of the state's green initiative. They really want to see less solar on good farmland, and more solar on brownfields property, reclaimed quarry property, that type of thing. So that was kind of part of that push.
Yeah, and Ingrid, as I understand it and read the ordinance, and Wayne is obviously more of the expert here, is that plan can be changed and amended. So the problem we had with them is they just went ahead and did stuff without coming back and getting a plan blessed, right? They may have all the best intentions and are going to keep it in solar and everything else, but the fact that they, mowed down that reclamation area and did not have that plan come back to us for amending is the issue. Is that true, Wayne? Is that a fair assessment?
Correct. And I think, as we discussed, the point of a reclamation plan is not necessarily so that a quarry turns back into a forest when it's done. The idea is to create something in the end that has a use, and that use can be forest, it can be farm, it could be another industrial use. It could be anything. But the idea is you don't want to be, left with a situation where, the quarry, it gets, completely milled out, and then they abandon it, and then the town takes it over, and then we have a hazard or a dangerous area. You want to just make sure that whatever the reclamation plan is, it's working towards a goal for the future. So, it's a perfectly reasonable thing to say, we want to fill this quarry, we want to level it out and put this use or that use over these areas when it's done. That's really more the purpose of, is to, again, make it safe and make it so that it's doesn't become a burden or a hazard to the township. I mean, and again, there's nothing wrong with, turning it back to forest or other passive uses. I mean, lots of places turn them into parks, swimming ponds. I mean, there's a lot of things you can do. A lot of it's in the control of the person who owns the property, but that, you know, they can modify this at any time as long as it's done, you know, with our review and our input. That's really the key here.
Okay. Thanks, Wayne. When you go for your inspection there, could you please document the percent of coverage of millings that have been placed down there without any site plan approval? Could you document how much of that has been done? Because there have been drone photos taken that they've really expanded the amount of millings that they've put down as paving.
Yes,
And they
we're
have
going to
no
try
approval for that.
Right. We're going to try and sketch out where they placed it, why, and see, you know, again, my primary thought at the moment is to make sure that it's not in areas that are part of the reclamation area. You know, if it's areas that they're, you know, are active roads and things, and again, that's where I think it gets a little questionable because they're, you know, we have, you know, ordinance discussion about maintaining roads, making sure we don't have dust and debris. But again, you know, I don't see how it could be, you know, placed in areas meant to be reclaimed. That's my biggest concern.
Well, mine is just the fact that they've done it in places maybe where they need parking areas or whatever, and they put these millings down and they don't have site plan approval to do that. And I was looking at the stormwater ordinance that we passed that we got copies of, and I see in that for site plans, and you have a certain amount of impervious coverage or whatever. This has a lot to do with the stormwater ordinance about runoffs and so forth. So how does our stormwater ordinance cover what they've done there? What have they violated by covering up with millings, creating runoffs and so forth?
Well, I think I mentioned it before. You know, I don't think runoff per se. You know, our stormwater management ordinance is, you know, the purpose and the intent is to stop increases in runoff, leaving a facility, you know, doing flooding, damaging downstream properties. You know, quarries in general don't discharge water. So whether they're 0% impervious or 100% impervious, or, you know, more commonly some version of basically impermeable rock, which essentially is impervious, they have settlement and collection ponds on the site which hold their stormwater, and then they release things occasionally during non-storm events as part of a discharge permit. My understanding is they haven't done any discharges, so there has been no, you know, and they don't typically do them all. So they're not really discharging any water that's the subject of, you know, any sort of violation of a stormwater, quantity, ordinance, which is really what we have.
Well, I understand what you're saying, but the fact that they're using these asphalt millings, which are pollutants, so wouldn't that be something we need to be monitoring?
I have had multiple conversations over the last month with the DEP, who has performed multiple inspections of the quarry and found no violations from what they're doing on the site. The DEP indicated further that, you know, there are guidance documents for millings that talk about capping. However, it's not even it is not even a law that they have to cap the milling. So there's nothing in violation of solid waste rules or regulations in the spreading of millings. It is, you know, it's not considered, hazardous for them to do what they're doing. It's also not very dissimilar from what, you know, we could basically go to any farm property in the area where they're laying, you know, haul roads, and I'm pretty sure we'll find millings. So, you know, I'm not getting any feedback from the DEP that there's a concern with regard to that.
Okay, and finally, when you go and inspect, when they got their permit from the DEP, their exemption permit to bring in asphalt millings, they were required to have township approval, and they didn't get it, and they brought in all those millings. So aren't they in violation?
I think this same conversation we had in the last meeting, and they've provided a further clarification today at 2:30. They circulated it to the board. Kevin Benbrook, I think you were also copied. I'm not sure you had a chance to review it. But they gave a documentation of what they do with the material, how it's used within their processes, you know, and you know, things of that nature. So I don't, you know, you know, you could fall on either side of this thing, you know, because it could be either way, whether this is actually, you know, anything that, you know, is within our right to ask them. Because again, that what you saw there in a permit application is that specific item is more to do with people who use, you know, who basically show up to a, you know, vacant property and decide to set one of these operations up. You know, if the contention is that this is, you know, this pile and their exemption is related to how they're processing material and creating, you know, material on site, as they've documented in this most recent letter they've provided, you know, the argument for them is this is part of how they run the business. You know, it's no different than them bringing in sands or other materials to mix and create quarry processed products. And again, we can certainly circulate that, you know, this letter that they've provided to everyone. You know, it's public record as part of the site plan application, but that is their, you know, that is their contention.
And I have done that already, by the way, guys, because again, everything that they do send us is a public document. And I've been asked for a couple documents, and to the extent I have them, I provide them. They gave a prior letter from their attorney about what they're doing with the sand and the fact, and some pictures showing that Lou had brought sand in. And again, there's no, the more knowledge that's out there for the public, I think it's better. I don't think it's like stirring up a bee's nest. I think everybody needs to be informed. But again, the one positive thing I would say is that I think the new owner of the quarry has sufficiently deep pockets that within reason, the things that we feel are approved down there, they will, I think they're going to make at the end of the day, make a good faith effort to work with us to site plan down there in a proactive way. You know, we have to just be careful what we want and don't want down there. We're going to work on that with the ordinance. And just again, just from what I've heard from, and again, I know lots of people around here. I live right in the community as well, but the millings issue, you know, people are very concerned about the stockpiling because of potential, you know, they feel that there's chemicals and things in the millings that make it very different than a product like sand or, you know, quarry dust. And again, as you guys know, and I've done trial work for 30 years, but you can already see it in just this land use hearing. The quarry can come in with an expert and say it's all fine. DEP can say, well, we don't regulate it. But then he can get reports from, you know, objectors and things saying it's the worst stuff on the planet, equivalent to, you know, dumping chemicals in the water. You know, I don't know. Again, those are going to be board decisions, but we'll do what we can with the ordinance, and the board is going to have to do a very good job of deciding what they feel. And again, I would only say, and again, this is ultimately could come back to us from a zoning standpoint. I and Wayne and I generally see things on the same page, and I don't say that we're not at this point, but even to the extent of putting millings down on haul roads and things, and I understand that the fact that it would reduce dust and so on and so forth. I mean, I think we need a permit just to pave your driveway in this town. And again, I really think that should have waited till the site plan approval was obtained. And I do think with that new stormwater ordinance, you know, that we were forced to adopt by DEP, you know, it is something to think about. I think it would have been preferable for them to wait on that, but we'll see where it goes.
Thank you.
It would have been wise for them to wait to do anything until all this was resolved. But it somewhat feels like you're fighting a moving target all the time, trying to resolve the issues there, and that's
right.
I'm hoping to continue.
And I appreciate that, Wayne, and I know you've done a good job of trying to stay on top of them. I'm certainly not directing any zings at you at all.
No, I completely understand, and I hope we can come to a resolution here, and that's it's partly our suggestion to kind of push off this meeting here, because it's very important that when we do this is comprehensive. This shouldn't be a half of a plan that comes into us. It has to solve the existing problems. It has to work for them moving forward, and it has to work for us from the township's perspective into what we're going to do and how we're
and the
going to
one-
regulate it.
Yeah, and the one other thing, again, Wayne, and I would point out to you guys, I did touch base with this with Wayne, I guess maybe a week or so ago, we were chatting a little bit about this, but I think maybe around December-ish, we did issue a cease and desist order, and I had sent a letter to Brian Tipton, their attorney, and that goes back all the way to December, where I think we were basically saying, hey, look, millings isn't part of what's been historically done there, and they're not allowed to come in for site plan approval. And they had brought some in, I think, already by that time. But if they're been bringing in more, the equipment things, I agree with Kevin. Look, they have a right to storage, and stuff like that. And we don't even know what they're going to do with that equipment at this point. But in terms of if they're stockpiling millings beyond what was there when we kind of gave them that cease and desist, Wayne, I would be interested in knowing that as well, because that would violate the spirit of what they said they were going to do, which was basically stop till they site planned it.
Yes, I agree. And I have not been told any more millings were being brought in. I'm also not parking my car out there every day. I know they're
No, I get that.
continuing to bring the sand in, but yes, I mean, my understanding is, they have not told me otherwise that any millings are being brought in. I will try to take a look at the pile and, see if I can try and ascertain if it's, the same or less than it was previously.
Okay, thanks. My final comment is I also think there's a disconnect to a certain extent between their local representative, Bill Godfrey, and the company. And candidly, I don't think Bill Godfrey has been doing his employer any favors, because I think he's rubbed a lot of people the wrong way. And I think he may be giving off an impression that the company is very laissez-faire about working with us and complying with us, that I don't think necessarily is shared at the corporate or attorney level. So again, we'll try to, and I have pointed this out, by the way, to their engineer and to their attorney. So hopefully we can get on top of this all the way around. There's no sense having somebody running around stirring up controversy if there's no need to. And I'm not saying that about our residents. I'm talking about this gentleman.
All right, is that about it for you, Wayne, then?
Yes, that's all I have.
Wayne. You're muted,
Yep.
buddy. There we go.
Sorry, I lost you there for a second. I didn't hear anything.
What time are you heading down there tomorrow, Wayne?
We're scheduled at 2:30, hopefully after the rain clears out.
All right. I have to run an errand in the morning to Fleetwood, but if I get back in time, you may get a text from me. I may tag along as well.
Okay, sounds good.
All right, moving on from the engineer's report, we're going to segue into council reports. Steve is not with us. I know DPW did provide a written report, so if everybody could review that. With Steve not being here, we'll start off then with Ingrid. Ingrid, what do you have for Steve?
Ingrid, you there?
I'm talking on mute, stupid. So one of the points in the DPW report was a question about the painting of lines at the railroad crossing where all the accidents occurred. We had gotten a memo a few months ago from the DEP railroad person who had a meeting at that point where the accidents were occurring, and there were things that were recommended, and it came forth in a document, and the railroad was supposed to contract the improvements out, and there were supposed to be some spacers put between the rails so that motorcycles wouldn't catch their wheels, whatever, and that work has not commenced. I know the railroad has been very inactive since COVID. They did run a couple Easter trains, but other than that, I haven't seen them come down, and there has been no activity to improve that crossing. So the lines are fading, and until the railroad gets its work going in there, I would gladly pay for the paint and for Jeff to repaint those lines as he did so beautifully before. So that's that part of that. Regarding Oberly Road, there's a speed bump in the center by where Diane Oberly lives, and that painting is very faded. And if you're just daydreaming and you're driving down that road and you hit that bump, you go, whoa. So that needs to be repainted, and if we need money for that, I will pay for the paint to paint the warning signs on that speed hump. As far as my report goes, I met with the Historical Society, and of course, many of the members are also part of the Historical Commission. Scheimer Mansion had an excavator come in there, and it looks terrific. They filled in the old pool and leveled land and moved the big tree. We're going to be having a big yard sale there for the benefit of the Restoration Fund for Scheimer Mansion on May 1st, which is our township yard sale day. So, and we're accepting donations. Anybody that wants to donate anything, that's nice. No electronics or big exercise equipment you don't use anymore. Just, you know, interesting, nice things. Just get in touch with me. I'll put them out there for us. And the last part of this is the Historical Society took ownership of the Fine House, which is located in Holland Township, and there's been a lot of restoration work going on there. And ultimately, we are going to flip that house with deed restrictions, and it will preserve the original Fine House, of which Finesville is named after. So that's my report.
Thank you, Ingrid. Moving on, Councilman Melvin.
Yes, Mayor. Before I jump in, first I want to commend Councilwoman Gray on her line tonight. It has been a pleasure. We can hear you crystal clear. Hopefully you can hear us crystal clear. It's been a night and day since some previous, and maybe you're standing outside and it's a nice night and you could do that. But just wanted to say thank you for whatever you did, because it is definitely working this evening.
Thanks, Kevin.
Yeah. And let me start off with, Mayor, with the court update. And this is the numbers for the month of March. For the Powhatan Court, we had 252 tickets issued. 171 of those were disposed. For criminal cases issued, we had complaints issued, we had 59. 14 were disposed. Revenue for the court in that month was $6,850.04. Total revenue for the year is $15,322.31. For the Greenwich Court, higher volume with regard to the traffic complaints. So they had 310 tickets issued, of which 292 were disposed. 41 criminal complaints issued, of which 16 were disposed. Their monthly total, $9,621.52, was gone to the Powhatan Treasury. And the total for them for the year is $16,781, and I believe 58 cents. So that's the court report. As the attorney mentioned, we are in the process of, we've got terms agreed, and those terms do include, for the benefit of Councilwoman Gray, the storage. We do need, per AOC, to keep online current or on-site current plus 2 years, but anything beyond that term would go to long-term storage, which would have to be arranged for by Greenwich Township. I will need an executive session tonight to discuss one request that came from the deputy mayor to me with regard to the term, and Joe, I know you're online to go through the budget. I'd like for you to hang around for that if you could as well, because it impacts payment terms.
Will do.
And so that is the court discussion. And Mayor, I think we're going to keep it brief tonight. I know we just met a couple weeks ago and had a fire department report, and we'll give a full police report at our next council meeting.
All right, very good, Councilman Melvin. All right, moving on, Councilman Stillo.
Yep, my report's gonna be when Joe does the introduction of the budget tonight, so I'll yield my time to him since we had a meeting previously, so I'll just yield my time to him.
All right, very good. Thank you, Councilman. I'll make mine fairly quick and brief. First off, I'd like to thank all the residents who have been emailing myself and everyone else on council with concerns over things that are going on in the township. I'm glad to see our residents are getting involved and staying involved. To me, that's a good thing. As far as our environmental commission, we did not meet since the last meeting. On the COVID front, there's a few things I can update. Hospitalization rates are steady, but capacity is still good, as well as ventilator capacity. As far as the vaccination sites, the county is hosting a site tomorrow in Phillipsburg, and as of this morning, there was availability for that site for tomorrow. I don't know what it's like as of now. And then Thursday evening, they will be hosting one at the Belvedere Fire Department. Start till 6 p.m. That one's geared more towards people who work and don't want to take off to get vaccinated. There again, check the county website for availability. The county also has a phone number for some of us who do not have the ability to check online. There is a number that can be called to help with any COVID vaccination appointments. Other than that, Councilman for the fire department to discuss some vehicle issues. We've discussed, we're going to see how things progress. At this point, they're going to make do with what they have, the way it seems, until things change there. I also met with Mayor Mengucci last week to discuss the Phillipsburg Mall property. This background now is going to get on board as far as a redevelopment plan for the property. So moving forward, we can attack the mall property, a joint effort between both towns, much as it was when it was a mall. I think we're going to be able to move forward with that redevelopment plan, as well as the property behind. They'd actually like to see that enrolled in the redevelopment area as well, which we have no objections to. I've had conversations with Wayne and the planner about it. The only question is sewer service accessibility. Some issues there for that. That was it. Cleanup, just to remind everybody, cleanup is scheduled for the 7th and 8th of May. It's Friday, it's a Friday and a Saturday. One last thing I'd like to note, our old Shimer school property. The purchaser has been working on the property a little bit, and I saw today that the whole roof was replaced. It has a new roof on it. So that's one step closer to seeing that property to its next use. Other than that, I really don't have anything else. I think I saw Commissioner Kern online. At this time, I'd just like to ask if Commissioner Kern would like to say in regards to the county and our township. Commissioner Kern, can you hear me? Well, maybe Jim didn't stay on. Can you see Kevin if he's still on or not?
Yeah. I saw him pop on and then I saw him drop. I didn't know if he called back in as a call-in user, but I don't see him listed.
All right, that's a shame. I would have liked to heard from Commissioner Kern a little bit, but I had talked to him this morning personally on some other matters, county and ag board. All right, without him, that's about all I have. So with that, we will segue into our budget discussion with our CFO, Joe. Joe, would you like to go over things in our budget? Anybody have any questions for Joe? Wanda,
Sorry.
there we go.
On introduction, I usually try to stay really high level, only because the state's still going to review this document. So some of the high points is taxes on the levy itself is going to go up 3.4%. Overall, blending everything in with the schools, the county, and everyone else, taxes will go up a little less than 3%, around 2.5. What does this budget do? It allows us to start planning for the future. We had a really rough winter, which we all know, so there's additional expenses in. And we are covering our pension increases and all the other items along with healthcare.
I'd like to know everybody there are costs that we have no control over. Insurance, pensions, and all that. We get increases every year, and we have absolutely no control over that.
Of the increases you had this year, Mayor, 44, 119, 140, 150, around 160,000 of it are things that are outside of your control. So your taxes went up 157,000. So if those items didn't go up outside of your control, you're looking at a different budget.
So this is Ingrid. The chief had sent a memo out about vicious dogs and what it would cost to keep them in quarantine and then euthanize them and so forth. Is there a consideration for increasing that animal control fund?
Yeah, what I would do is at the budget adoption, make the change. So we would amend this budget. I figured it should come up for council consideration first.
So if we
And,
just real quick, Ingrid, if I could, just a question on that, because I thought, and I'm trying to remember here, but I thought that if we introduced the budget and then we made an amendment to the budget, maybe there's a threshold of what that amendment amount may be.
There's a 110.5 rule. So what I would do is look to put it not in the animal control budget, but the police budget, since the chief would control it anyway. And that would come in less than the increase.
Okay.
And regarding the mall and this tax hearing we have in August, how are we prepared to deal with that settlement?
Potential settlement.
It depends what the value is. Correct. It would all depend. Our auditor and I this year with our financial statements reserved some more money for the reserve for tax appeals to try to mitigate any exposure that would hit. But to be really honest, it would be just dependent upon what the settlement number was. I mean, you may end up having to go out and do that special emergency note that we did in prior years.
Thank you.
And I'll apologize tonight a little bit in advance. I'm down and out with the stomach virus. So if I'm off a little bit tonight, my apologies in advance.
Sorry to hear, Joe. Joe, I had a question from Councilman Babinski today on where the money from the sale of our Shimer School is or went. Can you clarify that?
Absolutely. In this year's budget, we're proposing to use, so on the state big long budget sheet that you have, you'll see it on sheet 10. It's called Reserve for Shimer School. So we're using 35,000, much like last year. The rest of the funds reside on our balance sheet, because if we were to utilize more of that, what would end up happening is we would create a structural deficit in the budget, which for as long as we had the funds, we would be fine. But once they went away, we would have different issues moving forward.
All right, so what you're saying is we're spending 35,000 of that 400 and odd, whatever it was,
Yes.
thousand
Yep.
in the budget.
Correct.
All right. I am not in favor of spending any more of that. The rest of that fund should sit idle until it's needed for other purposes. And Councilman Babinski was in agreement as well on that. He didn't want to see it spent willy-nilly. That needs to be put away, and for such things as, just like Ingrid had brought up, this tax appeal, at some point, if that comes to an end and we do need money to pay that off, that would be a perfect place for that money to go. Otherwise, we're going to be going out to bond, and I don't really want to bond any more money than what we already have.
Understood.
Thanks for clearing that up, Joe.
And just for my own clarification, ratification, I believe you said we used 35K last year and we're using 35K this year?
That is correct.
Okay. And remind me, what did we sell that for? Was it 440?
400 and some odd thousand, Kevin. I don't exactly remember. It was over 400 though.
Yeah. Joe, do you happen to have what that number was?
Not off the top. I can get back to you guys with that number.
So that would leave approximately 370, at least 360, 370 balance after you draw down the 35K, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
I can circulate that number, what we sold that for, guys, tomorrow.
That's fine. I just wanted to know what it would be, because
I can
we've already
save Joe
used
the
some of
trouble
it.
on that. I have the closing statement somewhere, probably easier for me.
All right, thank you, Kevin. Anybody else have any questions for our CFO and the budget?
I'm good.
Wanda, do we want to introduce that now or in our motions?
Mayor, I have the resolution listed in the resolutions. Maybe you want to consider taking
Oh, I'm
all of
sorry.
them down.
All right, so being as we're on the budget and we're going to introduce the budget. The budget is one of three resolutions. Let's just skip over to our resolutions. If there's no further discussion on the budget, we have three resolutions. The last one would be to introduce the 2021 budget. Anybody have any issues taking all three resolutions together?
No, I'll move
No.
them forward, all three of them. Melvin.
Second, Gray.
Okay. Gray,
Yes.
Melvin,
Yes.
Stillo,
Yes.
and Slack.
Yes. So the budget will be adopted, I believe, at our next meeting then, correct, Joe?
We'll have
That is
public,
correct.
we'll also have
A
a
public hearing.
public presentation, a public hearing.
Right.
Mayor,
All
just
right.
to let you know that Commissioner Kern joined us.
All right, I will backtrack then. Commissioner Kern, can you hear me?
Yes, sir. I'm just making my rounds tonight. No no comment. Just if you need anything from me, I made myself available. So
I
good to
appreciate
see.
it, Jim.
Good
Just
to
to-
see you all. Kind of.
Just to clarify on the vaccination sites tomorrow, Jim, the one was in Phillipsburg at a school, correct? One of the schools?
Yes. The the school located up by the housing authority behind the warehouse.
Okay.
If you have an 08865 zip code, you can attend there. There's also plenty of space in Belvedere on Thursday too.
And that's all done through the county's website or the phone number that's listed at the county, correct?
Yes, sir. And the one in Phillipsburg, we have vaccination appointments until midnight tonight, and then we have to pull them, but there's plenty available.
All right, very good. All right, we have our resolutions done. I guess we'll backtrack now. Carol, do you have updates for us on Habitat? Councilman Melvin, can you see if we still have Mr. Zwinnecki on?
Well, yes, we do. And his line is open. Daryl, you there? He may have stepped away, Mayor.
All right, I guess we'll come back to him before the end of the meeting if he wants to say anything, but just, it's down as a motion. It's the fifth, not the fifth, the fourth motion to execute the memorandum with Habitat. So, if Daryl wanted to give us any update, but he's not online or not there. All right, ordinances this evening. We have no ordinances for first reading and no ordinances for second reading. Hopefully next month, or next meeting rather, we will have some kind of model ordinance to address our concerns with the asphalt plants and the concrete plants and any other things that we deem that are not things we want to see happen in the township. So hopefully between Wayne and Kevin, we can get some kind of model ordinance and get it on for next month. We have 5 motions this evening. Everybody take a look at the motions. The first 3 are to do with applications for members of the fire department. The 4th one is to authorize myself to execute the affordable housing memorandum with the Habitat for Humanity. And then the 5th motion is to authorize the clerk to re-advertise for a violations clerk for our court system. So if we could take all 5 motions together.
I'll move them forward, Mayor.
Thank you, Kevin.
Second, Stillo.
Okay, Gray,
Yes.
Melvin,
Yes.
Stillo,
Yes.
Slack.
Yes. Okay, at this time, we'll open it up to public comment on any items. Try to limit your public comment to less than 4 minutes. And please introduce yourself as well as your address. So Councilman
you'd like-
Melvin,
Yep.
go ahead.
I'm so used to giving the spiel here on the, if you'd like to make a public comment, please use the raise hand feature or type your name in the chat to be recognized for those on a computer or tablet. Or if we do have one call-in user. If you're a call-in user, please ask to be verbally recognized.
Hello,
Hello?
can you hear me? Hey, I'm calling. It's Kevin Snyder, 15
Kevin.
Snyder's Road.
Go ahead, Kevin.
I just have 2 things, just a quick comment and then a question. my comment would be, well, first, I'd like to thank council for taking, maybe a little bit closer look at the, what I'm sure many of you know, if not all of you know already, it's a big concern for the residents, at least the residents near the quarry. I liked a lot of what I heard tonight. It's better than the last couple conversations that I heard. It seems like everybody's taking a little bit more notice and interest in it because of the feedback that you're probably receiving from the residents. But I am still a bit concerned about what I heard tonight, and that would be the difference in opinion between our attorney Kevin and our engineer. I mean, Kevin seems to be right on point with the way I interpret the ordinance, and he seems to feel, or indicated in his report, that there shouldn't be any millings in use down there whatsoever, yet our engineer seems to think that they can use them pretty much almost anywhere they want. So I'm quite concerned about that. Hopefully they can get together on that and remember the residents in the township's best interest. That would be my comment. My question would be, our last call, I requested council to consider an ordinance for engine braking ordinance. And my question is, has any consideration been taken into that, looked into that, or thought about that? Any responses for that? To that, I would appreciate.
So to answer, I'll take the first stab at it, Kevin and Mayor. So I've had a couple of conversations about it. I think the concern is whether or not do we do that for the entire township or perhaps in specific locations. And so that's something that we're currently investigating right now and looking further into. I do think there is, in my opinion, palatability for it. I think we just want to make sure that we don't do something that may impact other areas that are not necessarily ones that we want to target. So hopefully that answers your question.
And
Mayor, I don't have intricate knowledge of other township ordinances pertaining to that. I just know some other local towns have them. I believe it's township-wide ordinances for that. Maybe they do have specific areas. I don't know. The ones I've run across, the only ones, I assume that they were township-wide. And I mean, we kind of have hills on all ends of the township. I don't see an issue where it would, it's a small town. It doesn't take long to get from one end to the other as far as truck traffic. And for them to not be able to use their engine brake is, I think through the town is a pretty small request in consideration of the life of a truck and what it's designed to do. Going through the township, I don't think makes a significant issue for the driver of the truck or the vehicle, but it may give some relief to the residents that live in those areas, which I'm concerned not only with my personal issue with my, the neighbors down here in the quarry, but it seems as though, as you I believe there's a meeting in Phillipsburg for another huge warehouse to go on the riverfront. Warehouses are the word of the day, and they only bring truck traffic. And I'm not against trucks. My father's a truck driver his whole life, but I don't have any issue with trucks per se, or their ability to make a living. It's just there's got to be consideration for the residents and the taxpayers of the town too. Thank you.
And like I said, that's something we are investigating. And so just to let you know that there is action being taken, that action is not to act blindly, but to look into it. We've heard different sets of opinions, and we're taking all that into consideration before we propose how that ordinance may look.
Thank you.
Yep.
And I would just say that Wayne and I work well together, and I don't know if there's necessarily any conflict between us. Part of the problem is that the quarry is a long-standing pre-existing use. It doesn't actually even have a site plan approval because it predates our zoning. I think the site plan approval, maybe its first ever. So some years ago, we were able to pass a non-land use health and safety ordinance, which is our quarry licensing ordinance. And that's what they've been coming in every 2 or 3 or now it's 4 years, with a reclamation planning, and they show their roads and things. So some of what Wayne and I are dealing with, the ordinance that's on our books is, wasn't put on the books till well after the quarry was there. And there isn't actually a site plan, I don't believe, even ever filed under that ordinance. So it's a little bit of a struggle to interpret, but we're definitely on it. And I look forward to getting Wayne's updated report. And listen, if we find that they brought in more millings, if Wayne feels that's a fair determination, then we will address it. Okay.
Kevin, just along those lines, just another quick question. I know the quarry's been there forever and predates a lot of things, but with the change of ownership and the fact that they want to change the use, I mean, that's a whole new ballgame, right? They need to come in for everything, even though they've been
It's not change in ownership. Pre-existing non-conforming uses have the right to continue through deed transfers. But yes, it's always, listen, even if they were completely a newer permitted use, any change in use requires site plan approval, and I went through that earlier. So that's why they're there now. I had actually recommended that they come in with the solar facility, because I know there's been a lot of information about, them taking restored parts of the quarry and all of a sudden doing something with them. But again, that's probably going to be where the solar facility is located, which is why I said, hey, look, I'm not going to say it's hysteria. It's legitimate concerns that you guys as residents have about, well, I could understand if you're saying, well, geez, what are they doing all this stuff down there? Is this preparatory to trying to, put some type of mobile asphalt plant down there or something? And again, I think, we will address it one step at a time in conjunction with the land use board. But I've been pretty clear, and I think our council's been very clear, and I certainly know Wayne has been clear as well. And that's where I say we've been together. We aren't turning a blind eye to anything, and we will, make sure we vigorously enforce our ordinances and do practical things, while at the same time recognizing that they are a legitimate business, and they have a right to operate, provided they do so in accordance with our rules and regs. And that's what we'll do, Kevin. You know that we won't put our thumb on the scale, but we'll enforce our ordinances and we'll supplement them as necessary.
And I appreciate that, Kevin. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Councilman Melvin, we have another comment or not?
Let me check, Mayor. If anyone would like to make a comment, please feel free to use the raise hand feature, type your name in the chat. Additionally, Daryl Swinicki, I don't know if you're back online now. Didn't know if you wanted to provide an update on the Habitat for Humanity if you've rejoined us. So, Mayor, I don't see anyone looking to be recognized.
Hi, I'm not sure if you can hear me.
Yeah, and who's this?
This is Chris Fushardi. And
Hi,
I just
Chris.
wanted, hi, I just wanted to confirm that the posts, the guide rail that you're going to be putting in is going to be all brown, the posts even.
Can you address that? I think you covered some of that in your report. I think we've lost our engineer. But I know that in his report, he was discussing, because we did see a couple of zebra patterns.
Yes.
Where they were going back and forth. And I believe in what his report was that they were looking to remedy that so that the sections should be all one color, so that it all matches, and that it's either going to be all of the brown or of the, I guess, traditional, if you will.
I can address it briefly, Kev. in talking with Wayne and Councilman Babinski, there was issues in some areas where longer posts were needed, that they had to use the galvanized rather than the brown because of cost issues. In conversation, I believe Councilman Babinski and myself and the color, regardless, would be better than zebra patterns. So I'm thinking in the guardrail that has to be put in yet, they may actually use the brown guardrail and galvanized posts because of the cost prohibitiveness of the longer brown posts. I was told those longer brown posts are 3 times what the normal galvanized ones are. For what reason, I don't know. But I believe Councilman Babinski was okay with it. But it would all have to be confirmed through the engineer, which I can follow up tomorrow. The last wanted was that zebra effect where it was some long ones were galvanized and then short ones were brown. It looked rather ridiculous. But at the last conversation I had with the engineer, it seemed as though they were going to go with the galvanized posts and then the brown guardrail.
Mayor, if I could say something.
Go ahead.
Jeff.
Who do we have?
That's Jeff.
Jeff.
Go
Okay,
ahead.
go ahead, Jeff. Maybe you can
you're-
clarify it.
You're absolutely right with the galvanized post and the brown guide rail. The only thing that won't change are the SKTs, which are the beginnings and ending points. If they're all brown, they're going to be brown. They're like a $6,000 end cap.
And where were where was it going to be? Was it going to be where we had requested it to stop, and was there stuff going to be put across the street now?
Yes, there's going to be stuff put across the street, Chris. As we discussed, it's going to end earlier for you on the other side, on your property side.
Fabulous. I mean, I don't really want to see the guide rail, but my husband wants his spot, so we have to deal with that. Do you know how many feet was across the street?
Roughly anywhere between 63 and 70 feet.
Okay.
So it's going to be coming around the corner, probably stopping right where the telephone pole is.
Okay. Okay. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate your time.
Very good.
Thank you. Daryl, are you there? I just saw it looks like you asked to be the presenter. No? Okay. Mayor, I don't see anyone else looking to be recognized.
All right. If we have no more public comments, we'll close that. We need a brief executive session, correct, Councilman Melvin?
Yes, probably at least 15 minutes.
Will we have any
This is
action to be
Ingrid.
taken? Go ahead, Ingrid.
Yeah, so if Jeff is still on, Jeff, are you still on?
Yes.
Okay, do you need the paint for Overly and the railroad crossing?
I don't believe so. I believe I still have some left.
Okay, so if you do need more, let me know. I will gladly help with that because we do have motorcycles. There were a lot out today because it was so nice. And you did a great job restriping that bad crossing where the accidents happen. And it would be just good to have that updated. So just let me know if you need more paint. I'll buy it. Okay?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Councilman Melvin, we need a brief executive session. Will we have action that we need to take afterwards or not?
I believe so. It could be concerning the shared services agreement. So we'll have, it was contractual.
All right, so what time you want to tell the public? Tune back in around 9:15.
Hello?
Daryl, there you are.
Yeah, I waited an hour and 40 minutes, and all of a sudden it's my time on stage, and it cut me off.
Go ahead, Daryl, all yours.
It'll take a couple of minutes. Glad to see that Kevin's feeling good. You guys are throwing me curves here, Benbrook. We got Ben Escow, we got Benbrook, and now we got a new Ben attorney. Every time I talk about habitat, there's a Ben that's involved. Yeah, we're still shooting for the veteran home. The search process is going to start imminent, and it takes up to 90 days to get that selection completed. But that doesn't stop us from starting on the house. So with the MOU paperwork being done, looking forward for the deed transfer. I know that all the attorneys are holding hands now, so that should be done really quick. And we should start this project.
Yeah. I'm sorry, Darrell, I didn't mean to interrupt. I just saw your attorney today, I think, ordered a quick title search, so maybe they're waiting on that before they take the deed. But yeah, we'll get it done as soon as you guys are ready for it.
Yeah. So everybody, like I said, everybody's kind of on the same page now. So it looks like this project is probably going to start within the next week or so. The only other thing that I was going to bring up is just keep in mind, Kevin brought up, you guys are picking up more and more properties that, after this project, we might be looking for some more projects if you guys are interested too. So just keep us in mind. That's all.
Daryl, just as an FYI, that property did have a tank search done on it. There was no outside storage tanks found. Just FYI.
Yeah, no, there's a 250-gallon tank that's in the basement, and I'll take care of that. That's already on my little butt list of things to do. So that's probably actually going to be the first thing I get done.
All right, very good, Daryl. Thank you for the update. Good luck with the project. As soon as deeds are done, if they need anything signed, I'll stop down and take care of it right away to keep it moving.
Okay, folks. Thanks. Have a good night.
Yep. Take care, Daryl.
Thank you.
Bye.
All right, so I'll make the motion for us to go into executive session.
I'll second it.
Okay, Gray,
Yes.
Melvin,
Yes.
Stillo,
Yes.
Slack.
Yes.
And our CFO is joining us.
Yes.
And you say about 20 minutes, Kevin?
Maybe not even. I think 9:15 is probably good.
All right. If you want to publish that so everybody knows.
I'll get right there. So, boom, and let me pull us into executive session. Ingrid, are you still on, Ingrid?
Yes, I am.
You're not on the internet, so I may have to do the same thing. I may have to. Are you on your cell phone?
Yes, I am.
I may have to call you on your cell phone and put you on speaker, and then try that again as we did last time.
Okay.
So, all right. So I've got Joe, John, Kevin Benbrook, Mayor Slack, and myself. And I'm going to start a breakout session. You should get a joint.
Kevin, I can't hear executive session. Are you doing it?
And you got, Dave, can you hear me?
I can
Yeah,
hear you
everyone-
fine.
Yep, everyone gets muted when you come back, that's why.
Okay.
So I guess
We
we'll
have-
make the motion to come back into public session.
Second,
Well, that's an all in favor.
All in favor?
aye, aye.
Aye.
Ingrid said aye if you couldn't hear her.
Mayor, we'd
Make
like me to,
motions.
Go ahead, Kevin. You want to give a rundown on the executive session?
wait a minute, Wanda, did you have a question on who made the motion?
Yeah, because I was out of that completely.
Oh, Who was it?
Melvin. It was Melvin.
and with
And
John
second-
seconded.
Yep, second by Stillo.
Okay.
To recapitulate for the public, we've been trying to get the attention of Greenwich Township for probably 3 years at least on getting a new intermunicipal court agreement in place. The log jam seems like it may have finally broken. We had a discussion in executive about adding some final tweaks and modifications to the existing offer we had made. And I will prepare that, circulate it to Councilman Stillo and Councilman Melvin, who are our subcommittee. Once they approve it, I will circulate to the same subcommittee counterparts in Greenwich. And we'll try to get this wrapped up in the next month. And that was the sole discussion in executive.
Thank you, council.
You're welcome.
Any other business that needs to be addressed this evening? If not, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved, Melvin.
Second, Stillo.
Ingrid
Thanks,
beat you. Ingrid beat you. I don't know if you heard it. She's on my side.
I didn't hear it.
Good night, Wanda.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Good night, everybody. Take care.
Night all.
All right, good night.
Take care.